Tell me if this sounds like your day. You pour your cup of coffee, you get your kids settled in for maybe their favorite 30-minute show, or you put them in their room for nap time. You're thinking, this is it. I'm finally going to crank out that thing that I need to do for my business, right? Whether it's creating that content, getting through your inbox, whatever your focused work is. And then 10 minutes in, someone's crying, someone needs a snack. Before you know it, you've got someone sitting in your lap. And that thing that you absolutely had to get done for your business doesn't happen. Now, if you've been led to believe that being a mompreneur simply means that you can build your business during nap time or screen time, I've got some truth for you. This strategy will fail you 100% of the time. And it will because there's a key component missing. Now, the number one mistake that I see mompreneurs making is this. They believe that they are going to get their important needle-moving tasks for their business done during nap time, quiet time, or whatever that I'm pretty sure I'm going to get 30 minutes or 60 minutes of time to myself. Unfortunately, they believe this because there are influencers out there on social media that are painting this picture, right? You know what I'm talking about. You've seen the post or the little video where, the fellow mompreneur that's running a 7-figure business that has an entire team and probably a household manager behind them, that they're not sharing that information. All they're showing instead is, walking out of the room, shutting the door after the baby goes into the crib, and then you see them coming and sitting down ever so casually at their desks going, this is how I'm supporting my entire family, right? They lead you to believe that running a business and planning as a mompreneur means you can just sit down and work from a task list during nap time. Friends, that is not an actual plan, nor is it an actual strategy, because it's not including what do you do when things fall apart. Now, there are some pretty hefty consequences when we try and build a business this way. And I know this because I attempted it many years ago. All right. So if you are relying on the nap time hustle strategy in order to build a meaningful business, or the carpool line strategy, here is what's going to happen, right? There's going to be a diaper blowout in nap time. The nap time is going to fail. The kid's going to be dropping a nap. The TV stops streaming the show, or the kid just doesn't feel like watching it that day, right? And so that moment where you thought you were going to get your work done doesn't happen. So you end up saying, oh, I'll do it during the next window. Well, that window doesn't happen. Then you try and get it done while you're multitasking. Well, that's never going to be a good result, right? And so then you end up going, oh, I guess I'll wait till the evening. And now you're stuck in this vicious cycle of staying up way too late, cutting off your sleep. You're low on energy. The quality of work just tanks, or it just doesn't get done at all. Now, if this has happened to you, you probably know what this leads to, because it's some pretty unfavorable things. Again, I know this. I lived through it. You start to build up some low-level resentment, sometimes even towards those precious kids or our significant other, right? Like, how come they get the time and I don't? Or why can't they just take a nap today? We completely drain our focus and our creativity because we're trying to squeeze things in. We're like that pinball in a pinball machine, right? Over here, over here, over here, over here. You are going to burn out. And your business is going to suffer, right? Because you're not consistent. The number one thing that is going to help you grow the business that you are building here is being consistent. And when you are trying to build a business during the nap time hustle window, it will not be consistent because our kids aren't robots, right? They will not adhere to the exact schedule that we desire for them. I can remember many years ago when my daughter dropped her naps really, really early. So she was somewhere around 2.5, and was already dropping her last nap. Like, that was just brutal. If you've been there, you know. Which meant that every day, when I used to have this fairly certain nap time window, it was horrific because I still made her go take her rest. Well, that window now turned into constant interruptions, right? Her, coming out of her room or crying or begging for more stuff or just, it was not the quiet, focused environment. Yet every day I kept thinking, okay, well, today she'll sit here and take her rest time. And I was planning for something that was never going to happen. And then what ultimately started happening for me was that the stuff I wanted to get done during that window all started moving to the evening. But then the problem with that was, what happened if there was a bad bedtime night, right? Or she got sick, or there was a bad dream, or something like that. Well, then everything just kept getting pushed off, pushed off, pushed off. And this is when I knew there needed to be a different way to tackle how can we create plans as mompreneurs that allow us to build the business, have the time that we want, but without being pulled in 25 different directions. The fact is, we have to plan differently. We have to create plans where we are operating as a CEO, right? You are the CEO of your own business, but you are also raising tiny humans. And this type of planning is not the type of planning that is taught by the vast majority of productivity experts out there. All right. It's not being taught in the books that you go and purchase to go, man, I just need to figure this out. It's also not what's realistic that you're seeing out there on social media 90% of the time. This type of planning is what I call realistic weekly planning. Realistic being the key component. We have got to take a step back and say, okay, this is my reality, right? That stage of time, this is my reality that my daughter is dropping her nap. Instead of pretending every day that it's going to be great, that's not. This is my reality. And I need to create a plan that acknowledges that, but allows me to get the things done that I need to. And when you learn how to do realistic planning as a mompreneur, it changes everything. And this is why I am so passionate about teaching this, especially for mompreneurs. One of the latest statistics that I read is saying that 93% of the books out there written today around productivity and planning are written by men. They have great advice, but it's advice and strategies that don't work for mompreneurs. They are giving advice with an assumption of you have control over your time and calendar. You are not also fully responsible for caring for tiny humans at the same time. Now, there's one key strategy that I teach during this realistic weekly planning that is a game changer for mompreneurs, and it's called planning for uncertainty. Planning for uncertainty looks very different. The plan that you build for your week looks very different than the very masculine style of time-blocked planning. All right, so let's break this down into 3 things that you need to put in place to help create this realistic weekly plan instead of thinking you're going to run your business during nap time or TV time or screen time. Number 1, you absolutely have to always be working ahead, period. No exceptions. All right. So what do I mean by working ahead? Well, maybe you run a business that includes a podcast or, for example, putting videos out on YouTube like this one that you're watching here right now. And you've made a commitment to have this video go out every single week. And maybe you drop your content on Thursdays. So, here at the Pink Bee, I have a video that goes out on YouTube every single Thursday. If I create a plan to record that video on Wednesday, it's going to be a disaster because that will be the day that the wheels are going to fall off and now I'm missing a week. Or what gets put out there is really, really poor quality. So when I talk about working ahead for mompreneurs, I am really talking about weeks ahead, not a day ahead, not 2 days ahead. Now, can every single business task be done ahead? Of course not. But for example, I am recording this video here 3 weeks before you're going to see it. That's what I mean by working ahead. So that if something were to happen and the time I had allotted to do this work gets taken from me, I'm not in a panic because I'm always planning weeks ahead. All right. So that is one strategy you absolutely have to implement. The second one, and this is all helping you plan for uncertainty, right? Now, you need to know how much uncertainty you have in your given life right now, and you need to plan for that. So, what do I mean by that? Well, uncertainty, when I talk about planning for uncertainty, I want you to think about this similar to an emergency fund, like a financial emergency fund, right? Most financial advisors would always tell you, hey, every single month, put some money away into an emergency fund for the things that you don't know about, you don't plan for, right? The hot water heater breaks. All of a sudden you need 4 new tires on your car. We just had the other day, we're noticing a leak in our dining room ceiling below the bathroom. Like, didn't plan for that, right? So we need to take the same approach with our time. And the only way you're going to know how much kind of uncertainty you need to be budgeting for, how much time you need to be setting aside every week, is by tracking it in your life right now. All right. So grab a sticky note, go about your day-to-day living over the course of a week. And every time you have to stop and spend time doing something that you had not thought was going to happen, make a note of that. Start to figure out what that time budget looks like. When my daughter was much younger, my uncertainty time for working hours was a good 8 hours. Now she's a little bit older. So now my working uncertainty time is about 4 hours. And what this means is I'm acknowledging that even though my calendar might show, hey, Megan, you've got 25 hours available. If I know, you know what, history shows 8 to 10 hours of that is going to get hijacked. Now I'm going to plan for the realistic number instead, right? So again, similar to that planning for a financial emergency fund, let's say you get a check for $1,000, but data shows, I probably, typically 10% gets spent on things that I don't plan for, emergencies that happen, then go ahead and take 10% of that, take $100 and go put it somewhere else so it's there when you need it. All right. Now, the third part of this is when you're actually building your weekly plan. And I'm going to share a resource with you at the end of this of where you can go see what this weekly planning process looks like. But when you're creating your plan for the week, this is why number one thing we have to stop doing is working from a task list. All right. You need to strategically plan the type of work that requires heavy brain power, heavy focus, heavy flow for the times where you are 90% certain you will have it. Now, notice I didn't say 100% certain. If you're a mompreneur, I don't think you have 100% certainty in anything. Even if you hire a babysitter, there's a chance that they might cancel at the last minute, right? So instead of aligning low-level tasks for the times where you are like, oh, I am 90% certain I will have that time. So when my daughter started going to preschool, there was a 2-hour window every day where I was like, I am 90% certain I'm going to have that or not every day, but the day she went, I was 90% certain I would have that 2-hour window. I would schedule the heavy brain power work during that window instead of wasting that window of time on low-level tasks that I could pop in and out of. All right. And if you're just operating from a task list every day as a mompreneur, you're setting yourself up for the scenario we talked about first, right? Where everything's going to be put off. All of a sudden you're working late at night or getting up early or things just aren't happening. So again, back to those 3 things. You have to be working ahead. You cannot be running a just-in-time business as a mompreneur. You need to know what your uncertainty budget is, right? And then you need to create plans that align the brain power heavy lifting for those 90% certainty. So if you have been struggling to figure this whole thing out of how do I run a business while also raising kids, it's not that there's something wrong with you. You're not lazy. You're not disorganized. You're not someone who can't, just figure it out. Unfortunately, you're looking at resources that are telling you how to plan and manage your time that aren't aligned with your reality. You're looking at the old school, what I call masculine approach to productivity and planning, and they're not acknowledging your real life. The good news is you don't have to do that. So when you learn how to shift to a very proactive, realistic, which means flexible, weekly planning system, you're going to be able to create space for important focus time for your business, but also important focus time that you desire with your kids. So if you are ready to ditch this nap time hustle, unrealistic method of thinking that I'm going to build a successful business this way, and you want to start planning for real life, here's your next best step. So I've been talking about this very specific weekly planning process. I have got some step-by-step videos showing you what this looks like inside of my app. So I have a free app out on both App Store and Google Play called The Pink Bee, all one word, no spaces. You can download that. I've got a ton of free training content in there the minute you download it. And then there's also a little mini bundle in there that you can upgrade to as well. And you start to see what this planning for uncertainty looks like in practice. I promise you, it is 100% life-changing.